Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I welcome you all to a live red teaming operation webinar. Today, I will demonstrate a red teaming simulation on how adversaries can compromise an unprotected device without proper security in place. Before jumping into it, this is a short introduction about me. I am a cyber enthusiast and I have been working as a security analyst for around 3 years and have been involved in various activities including SOC, VAPT, and red teaming simulations. I am so much excited to share insights and real world experiences in today's webinar. So let's start with the very basic question. What is red teaming? Imagine a team of highly skilled hackers, but instead of causing harm, they are here to help. This is what red teaming is all about. It's like having a friendly hacker test your security to see how strong it really is. Why do we do this? Red teaming is the best way to see if an organization can handle real life cyber attacks. It shows us how good we are at preventing attacks. Can we stop hackers before they get in? Detecting attacks. Can we see if hackers are trying to break in? And responding to attacks. Do we know what to do if they get in? The red teaming uses the same tricky behaviors as real attackers, which gives us a deep look into our security, strength, and weaknesses. Some areas they focus on are network security. How safe is our network? Application security. Are our apps really secure? Incident response. How do we handle a security breach? Access control. Who can access what? Security product setup. Are our security tools configured correctly? Now, a basic question might arise. What is the difference between red teaming and VAPT? So the basic difference between red teaming and VAPT is red teaming is like a full-scale mock attack. We test everything to see how well the entire system holds up, while VAPT is more focused. We look specific vulnerabilities and weaknesses and try to fix them. The first key difference is in the scope and approach. For VAPT, imagine a security guard checking the locks on specific doors. VAPT focuses more on finding and fixing weaknesses in certain systems. It's often quick and limited in scope. For red teaming, think of it as a team of undercover agents testing the security of the whole building over weeks or months. It looks at the entire organization's security, not just the parts of it. Coming to adversarial simulation, red teaming is like a real life spy mission. The team uses the same tricks as real hackers, including advanced threats, to see if we can detect and stop them. Now imagine you are playing hide and seek, but the seeker is using every trick to stay hidden. That's what red teaming does. It tests if we can find the hacker hiding in our systems. Next, if we talk about stealth and persistence, the goal of the red team is to stay hidden for as long as possible. This tests how good we are at spotting sneaky attacks. Moving to the objectives. Red teaming is like a treasure hunt with specific goals. The team aims to achieve objectives like accessing sensitive data or compromising critical systems. Now that we have understood the differences between red teaming and VAPT, let's dive into the exciting phases of red teaming operation. Reconnaissance. In this phase, we gather all the information we can about the target organization. We look at public data, learn about the network, and even observe employee habits. Think of it like a detective work. Have you ever Googled yourself to see what information is out there? That's what we do in Recon, but on a bigger scale. Initial access. Now imagine we need to get inside a secured building. We use tricks like phishing, that is fake emails, social engineering, pretending to be someone we are not, and exploiting weaknesses to get in. Lateral movement. Once inside, we don't just stay put, we explore the whole place. We try to gain more privileges and access other systems. This helps us understand the network better and find more weaknesses. Imagine you got into a building through a window, and now you are trying to unlock all the doors inside. Fourth is objective execution. Here's where the real action happens. We focus on specific goals like stealing data, compromising systems, or causing disruptions. exfiltration, and cleanup. Finally, it's time to leave without a trace. We extract valuable information and make sure to cover our tracks so that we do not get caught. Now that we have covered the phases of red teaming and understood the detailed processes involved, let's move on to discuss why red teaming is so crucial for organizations. Understanding the importance of red teaming is crucial for any organization that aims to strengthen its cybersecurity. Let's break down into few points. Attack simulation. Think of red teaming as a dress rehearsal for cyber attack. It simulates real cyber attacks, giving organizations a realistic view of their security posture. You would have practiced a fire drill at school or work, right? Just like a fire drill, red teaming helps us find weaknesses that regular tests might miss. Proactive defense enhancement. Red teaming is like having a security coach. It helps organizations be proactive by revealing vulnerabilities and misconfigurations that aren't apparent through regular testing. Better threat detection and response. It's like a workout for our security systems. By testing existing security measures and finding gaps, red teaming enhances our ability to detect and respond to threat. Imagine a sports team practicing different plays to improve their game. Simulating real attacks improves our incident response process and efficiency in handling the incidents. Organized preparedness. Red teaming is a comprehensive training program. It raises awareness among employees about common threats like phishing or social engineering. Continuous improvement. Think of red teaming as a never ending improvement cycle. Each exercise helps make security stronger and improves our ability to handle incidents and recover from them. Strategic benefits. Red teaming is like earning a gold star for good security practices. It helps organizations meet compliance and regulatory standards by demonstrating effective security practices. In summary, red teaming is a vital practice that not only tests but also significantly improves an organization's security defenses, ensuring they are prepared for any potential cyber threats. Let's break it down using an analogy of protecting a house, where the house represents the organization. Think of red teaming as hiring a team to break into your house. It simulates real life break in attempts, giving you a realistic view of how secure your house is. Imagine you find a weak spot in your house, like a window that doesn't lock properly. Red teaming helps you identify these vulnerabilities so you can fix them before a real intruder finds them. Consider that once someone breaks into your house, you might have security cameras and alarms that can detect the intrusion. The intrusion is basically testing if the controls in the place actually work. By simulating these break-ins, red teaming ensures your detection systems are effective and helps you practice responding to threats. By conducting such activities, you now have an improvement plan in place, like securing all possible entries or adding more security controls, like CCTV, alarms, etc. To bring these concepts to life, let's move on to an exciting part of our webinar, a live red teaming demonstration. This will give you a real-time look at how these phases and benefits unfolds in practice. Let me break down the customer environment and the attack flow of our operation. To better see the flow, I will turn off my camera. So here is the attack flow. Before that, in the industry, what we have observed till now is that they focus more on the internal security of all the devices, but they ignore the externally exposed assets. That is the starting point of any red teaming exercise. If you search on a Shodan using docs, you will get assets that still have critical vulnerabilities dating back to 2022 or 2023. Now coming to the attack, on the bottom right, we have our attacker machine, and on the top left, we have the victim environment. As a part of our red teaming, we did some research on organizations on Shodan, Census, Zoomai, and other tools. From there, we found a few IP addresses associated to that organization. Upon research, we found that only one IP address was alive. So that is now going to be the starting point for us. We first did a port scan on that IP address of the customer to see the services that are exposed on the internet. Upon port scan, we found that port 80 and 3389 are open. Digging more into it, we found that on port 80, there is a file server. which is HFS file server by Regeto. There was a recent vulnerability in Regeto that goes by CVE 2024-23692. It is a template injection vulnerability in Regeto HFS. The vulnerability enables attackers to execute arbitrary commands on the server by sending specially crafted HTTP requests. We curated a payload to send those requests and execute a command to download a payload from our virtual Python server. Upon execution of that payload, it gives us a reverse shell. Using that, we found out what all users are present on the machine. Then, using our crafted payload, we listed down the local admins of the device and then changed the password for one of the users. This is because we know that RDP port was open, and with these users, we will be able to access the machine remotely. So that is the initial access. For lateral movement, we performed a network scan to find out the devices in the same networks and performed a port scan to see what all services are exposed on the internal network. We found that SMB shares are accessible, and on those shares, we found confidential files like VAPT reports, ID cards of the employees, invoices, PST files, and many more details. Got this data out of the customer network to show them that we even executed data exfiltration. The interesting part is that they had an alert on their system as well. But because we did this in the midnight, there was no team to report and respond to this activity. So before we start the attack, this is a disclaimer that this is only for educational purposes and it does not have any malicious intent. So let's jump into the attacker screen. So earlier I already mentioned that we did some OSINT to get an IP address of the organization. You can see that I have already done nmap port scan on the customer's public IP. We can see that port 80 runs HFS, that is HTTP file server. There is an actively exploited vulnerability that goes by CVE 2024-23692. Also here you can see that I have a script prepared that sends specially crafted requests to execute any commands on victim server. Let's run the bash script with the victim IP as a parameter to the script. Let's try to run command like ipconfig that should list the IP address of the system. So here we have the IP address. Let's try other commands like pwd to print and the present working directory. So it will provide us the present working directory of the same. So here we have it. Let's use this bash script to download a payload that is hosted on our end, that is attacker's virtual server. We will utilize the invoke web request, that is a PowerShell command, to download the payload to the first victim machine. Once we download the payload, then we will use the same bash script to get the reverse TCP connection to the first victim machine. So here I have my payload and let me start up the Python server. Let me run the bash script again and execute the command that is invoke web request. So this is the command to get the payload from our virtual server. I'm mentioning the URL from where we will download the payload, and then I will output it in the same directory folder, that is download folder of the admin user. So the file name is setup.exe, and then I will output it in the same directory C users admin downloads, which will basically download the payload on the victim machine. I'll name it as setup.exe. Let's wait for that to get downloaded. Yep, the execution was successful. Now what we will do is that we will start up the MSF console to start the listener. Let me type in run, that is the listener is ready. And then we will execute the same payload that we earlier download to get a reverse shell. Let's wait for that to get executed. All right, here you can see that we have the session open with us. Now let us execute few commands with the session. We will start with, let's say, ls to list all the files. Also, we know that port 3389, which is for RDP, is also open. So we will use our exploit to change the password of a user to get access to the machine using RDP. But before we do that, we need to know the current users on the system. So let's first escalate our privileges on the system using get system command so that we can get the system level privileges on this victim machine. Let me type in get system. Yes, we have got the system for this particular machine. Let me type in shell so we can get the shell, that is the command prompt, and let's try to execute multiple commands like checking the privileges by who am I command. So we have the system level privileges. Let me type in who am I. So we are anti-authority system. Now let me exit this shell and let me type in #dump command so that we are able to get the hashes of the passwords. Yes, here we have the hashes of the user passwords. Let's come back to our expert script and let me run some commands one by one. Now I want to list down the users using the net user command. So it will provide us the list of users on the machine. Also, let's utilize the same command to check the local admins. Let me run the bash script again. Net user. All right, here there are multiple admins. We know that one mjohn is one of the local admins and administrator is one of them. So we will utilize the bash script again and try to change the password of mjohn user. Let me run in the bash script again and change the password of mjohn user. We will utilize net use command for that as well. Net user mjohn. Oh, I think it's a typo. Let me run the script again. User mjohn. Let me type in a new password. This would change the password of the user mjohn. Yep, we are able to do that. So what we will do is that we will take the RDP using the changed password. We will utilize xfree RDP for that. We type in xfree RDP mjohn and let me enter the password. Finally, we have the access to the first victim machine. Now what we will do is that we will utilize an already installed software here, which is advanced IP scanner, to find other devices in the network. Let me start up the advanced IP scanner. Let's run the advanced IP scanner on the subnet that is 53.254. So it will list out all the alive IP addresses in the network that are reachable from the victim machine. Here we are able to see one IP address. It would provide us a list of additional IP addresses as well. Here we have seen that there are two alive IP addresses in the network. So what we will do is that we will minimize this and we will run a port query, that is a Windows PowerShell utility that checks if ports are in listening state or are in closed state. So let me open up the same. Let me open up the PowerShell over here so that we can utilize port query to find the ports of the IP address that we found using the advanced IP scanner. So I have prepared a script for that can be executed directly. Let me just copy it. I will paste the same and it will basically check the connectivity to the ports and see if they are in listening state or closed state. So it is querying the IP address and it has provided us the list. You can see that the port 3389 is listening, port 22 is closed, additionally 445 is listening state. We have two additional IPs that we found using the IP scanner. So what we'll do is let's run the same port query on another IP as well. Let me copy it and paste the same and check the connectivity for the ports mentioned over here. So here as well, port 22 is not in a listening state. Port 139 is listening. Port 449 is also listening. And port 3389 was listening as well. Let's try accessing some shares on these IP addresses. So I will type in the IP address. We can see that there are unauthenticated shares accessible directly without any credentials. These are the IT files that contains audit as well as VAPT reports. All of these are credit and confidential files. In the ID folder, we can also see that there are employees IDs, which is a PII. Now what we will do is that let's type another IP where we also found that SMB port is in listening state. So let us open up the run command and type in another IP as well to check if we are able to find sensitive information over there as well. I'll type in run and the IP address of the second IP we found, that is 48.111. Here also we are able to see unauthenticated shares as well. There is an invoices folder which is again sensitive information. What we can do is that we can extract these files to our system as well as utilize those to perform additional attacks. So what we will do is that let's try to extract that and exfiltrate that to our system. So I will just copy paste this and copy it in the C directory. Yep, we have copied it. Let me navigate back to the interpreter shell. Let's find first the current directory of the shell. Let me type in ls. I'll directly try to cd into the C directory and then try to exfiltrate the data. Yes, we are into the C directory. So here we can see that the invoices folder is already present. Let's try to download the invoices and exfiltrate the data. Yep, we are able to exfiltrate the data that is from the invoices folder. So this covers the data exfiltration as well. So that's it from the demonstration purposes. Let's navigate to other sections of the webinar. So let us summarize the activities performed. We started by gathering information using OSINT and other methods to find a starting point, specifically identifying the public IP address that belonged to the customer organization. We further mapped the environment using Nmap. We gained entry by exploiting RCE in Regeto HFS. To maintain access, we changed the password of a user, which allowed us to establish a foothold. Using new credentials, we accessed remote desktop and performed internal discovery with IP scanners. We found and accessed SMB shares without authentication that had various sensitive files in it. Now, imagine a scenario on a larger scale. Consider a customer with similar setup and hundreds of shares that can be accessed without authentication. Our team conducted a similar red team operation where they exploited such misconfigurations across the entire network to gain terabytes of information. This demonstration highlights how critical it is to secure all aspects of an organization's infrastructure. Now let's move on to the detection phase. I'll open up our Stigo platform to show you how we can detect these activities. So this is the home screen of our platform. You can see a high-level overview of the devices along with the detection trend. Now let's say if you want to check the detections that come into the system, you just click on SecOps Center and all the detections would be visible to you. If you want to check the total detections, you click on total and you will be able to see all the total detections that are there in the system. So these are the detection that our team would see when there is any such kind of attack or activities in the customer environment. The first thing we did during the attack was that perform an RCE to invoke web request to our virtual server on the attacker machine and download the payload. So this is the detection and we are able to see that all the activities performed like invoke a web request can be visible on this detection as well. Additionally, we had run multiple commands using the reverse shell like whoami, pwd and listed all the users, change the username, etc. Such activities are also detected as well. And you can see these detections on the screen. You can see the processes involved, you can see the users involved, and also the host involved in it. We then did the changes to the user account mjohn. So you can see the detection as well over here. It shows that the user account was changed by the administrator because we performed and made the changes using the bash script which was running as the admin user. Additionally, we did the network scan and port scan from the machine where we did the RDP. So you can see the enumeration commands getting detected as well utilizing the port query where we send multiple requests to multiple ports on the host. And also we ran a command when we had the reverse shell access, which was to get the system administrator privileges. You can see that the detection for that is here as well. Basically, it was an in-memory injection utilizing the meterpreter shell. So it is super important to understand that such detections help us in identifying the attack that is carried out and empowers our SOC to respond immediately and protect the customer environment. Now that we have discussed the detections, let us discuss preventive measures and mitigations that can be done to protect our systems against such attacks before we conclude the webinar. So, to mitigate and prevent such scenarios, there are multiple measures that can be taken. First, keeping our systems up to date is absolutely crucial. Regular host based vulnerability assessments are essential for identifying and fixing potential weaknesses. Secondly, we need to use centralized application control. This helps prevent unauthorized installation and restricts the execution of unauthorized binaries, keeping our system safe from unwanted software. So, to mitigate and prevent such scenarios, there are multiple measures that can be taken. First, keeping your systems up to date is absolutely crucial. Regular host based vulnerability assessment are essential for identifying and fixing potential weaknesses. Secondly, we need to use centralized application control. This helps prevent unauthorized installations and restricts the execution of unauthorized binaries, keeping our systems safe from unwanted softwares. Next, hardening our systems is must. We should ensure our systems are hardened according to the CIS standards. This makes them more resilient against networks attacks. So, to mitigate and prevent such scenarios, there are multiple measures that can be taken. First, keeping your systems up to date is absolutely crucial. Regular host-based vulnerability assessment are essential for identifying weaknesses. Secondly, we need to use centralized application control. This helps prevent unauthorized installation and restricts the execution of unauthorized binaries, keeping our systems safe from unwanted softwares. Next, hardening our systems is a must. We should ensure our systems are hardened according to the CIS standards. This makes them more resilient against network attacks. Encrypting sensitive files is also important. Along with this, we should regularly audit file permissions and access logs to keep our data secure. Another vital step is to restrict communication between internal machines to necessary ports and protocols only. This limits the chances of unauthorized access. We also need to apply strict access controls on shared folders. Isolative, sensitive files and shares through network segmentation can further limit exposure. Lastly, educating our users is a key. They should be aware of the risks associated with executing files from untrusted sources and understand common attack techniques used by adversaries. By following these practices, we can significantly improve our security posture and better protect our organization. So, I thank you all for your time and joining us today. I hope you found this webinar engaging. Before we wrap up, we would like to remind you that we are now open to questions. Please feel free to ask them now.